recommends and supports a good action will receive the recompense of the one who does it without anything being diminished from it all the way to the day of judgment. And he also said, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in the same hadith, whosoever recommends and supports an evil action will receive the recompense of the one who does it without anything being diminished from it all the way to the day of judgment. So my brothers and sisters, what I'm suggesting to you and I is that we do what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us to do. وَتَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى وَلَا تَعَاوَنُوا عَلَى الْإِثْمِ وَالْعُدْوَانِ. Your support indirectly of the non-Muslim media, you are enjoining and you are supporting and you are collaborating and you are helping ithm wal udwan, sin and corruption. And by talking about and by planning and making dua and making the investment for Muslim media, you will be doing just the opposite. You will be collaborating, you will be helping, you will be supporting, helping to build and investing towards birr, goodness and taqwa, fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the establishment of the Islamic principle in the society where you live. O Muslims, I realize that many Muslims come to the Salatul Jum'ah and they only want to hear about Salah and Zakah and fasting and Hajj or Tafsir or Fiqh or what we call religious ritual issues. But you will go back to your homes as you do every day. And the issue which I'm speaking about today, which may not appear to some of you to be religiously oriented, you will be affected by it. And nastaghfirullah, some of us are enslaved by it. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He give you and me the ability to rise to this call, to respond to this call, to be aware of the importance of this call.
Coming up to 16 past 11 on 2GB 873. Last week you would remember the Anti-Discrimination Board and Chris Puplik released a scathing report on the media's portrayal of stories involving race. The report said the media had been inflaming anti-Muslim sentiment. Well, on the show, everyone has a say, regardless of race or religion. Joining me online now, I'm pleased to say, is Sheikh Khalid Yaseen, who's visiting from the UK. He's a Christian who's converted to Muslim, to Islam. Originally from the US, he's holding a number of lectures on Islam over the next week. He's online right now. Good morning, Sheikh Khalid.
Good morning, Ray. How are you feeling?
I'm particularly well. It's nice to talk to you. For those who aren't familiar with you, could you tell us a bit about your background? You were once a Christian who's made the change of faith. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And when did that happen?
I became a Muslim in 1965. Seems like eons ago. And in the same year of the tragic assassination of Al-Hajj Malik Shabazz, better known to the world as Malcolm X.
Now, would it be fair to say, and I'm not trying to be funny about this, that you're a bit like an Islamic version of Billy Graham in that you travel the world trying to convince people to turn to the Islamic faith?
Yeah, I guess part of that that characterization I might agree with, although I don't feel a mandate upon myself as Billy Graham, perhaps, to convert people to the Islamic faith. However, I do have a mandate to expose people throughout the world, according to my ability, to the correct value system of Islam, and to invite them to consider that and to apply that to their lives.
In relation to recent events, and most notably the events of September 11th and Osama bin Laden, how difficult has that made your job? And how difficult do people like Osama bin Laden and others like him make your job?
Well, Ray, I think that, to be very objective, I think that any time that any tragedy like the September 11th incident takes place in the world, it certainly distorts people's view about many things. And I think that Osama bin Laden being a Muslim and people associating that particular incident with Osama bin Laden certainly distorts people's perceptions about Islam. And so one of my responsibilities is not to address the Osama bin Laden issue, but to address the perhaps the issue of Islam relative to the September 11th incident, and to distinguish Islam from the acts of Muslims or Christians or anyone else, and to clarify in the minds of people that Islam is not a religion of terrorism or fanaticism or extremism, and that such actions, whether it be September 11th or, for that matter, the Oklahoma bombing or anything else, such actions should not be associated with a system of faith like Islam or, for that matter, Christianity.
But I guess whether it's Catholics or Protestants or Muslims, that extremists make it particularly difficult for us to move forward as a group of people in the world, be we of different faith or Jewish faith or the like, that when extremists take control, as in fact they have in more recent times, it makes the job more difficult for everyone.
Yeah, I would tend to agree with that. Just that I think that it's very important that people keep in mind that a global faith and set of values such as Islam and or the faith of Christianity should never be indicted or impugned because of some actions of a group of people who allegedly may associate themselves with some form of extremism.
Can Muslims and Christians live in harmony and respect each other's values and beliefs?
Well, we have to look historically, Ray, and see that, as a matter of fact, since the time of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, in the 7th century, Muslims and Christians, they did live in harmony. And conflict is inevitable when you're talking about human beings and civilization. So to eliminate the world from conflict, obviously, is an impossibility. But at the same token, to live in reasonable harmony and tolerance, this is the objective of Islam, and Islam has demonstrated that over several centuries that we can historically refer to.
So one of your lectures is titled Islam, the Only Solution for World Peace. I mean, obviously, from what you just said, it's not just the religion's the only solution for world peace, but it's a combination of perhaps Christianity and Islam and the rest of it, world peace, if we all pull together in the one direction.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to know that Islam is not by definition a religion. It's a comprehensive system of life that has a very clear set of values, whether it's in the political field or the social field or the governmental field or any other part of the human drama. And as such, it should not be viewed from purely a religious point of view. And certainly, we feel as Muslims that the Quran has the basis for putting forward a very profound platform for world peace and for sustaining that, and that it should be considered by the world as such.
Just on that makes it difficult because you say it's a way of life, not just a religion. Well, how difficult is it for people who come from another part of the world that settle in Australia as Muslims to embrace our culture and embrace the way we do things as opposed to the way they used to do things? Are they compatible?
Yeah, of course. And I want to make a clear distinction as we speak between Muslims and Islam. Muslims are the people who themselves attach themselves to Islam either by profession or by some kind of testimony. But Islam is the system of faith and the values itself, which has its own sources. As such, the basis of Islam is one that preaches tolerance and brotherhood and fraternity with everyone in the world. As such, when a Muslim moves anywhere in the world, he or she should become a peace-loving, a law-abiding individual, and should learn to adapt and tolerate the culture and the mentality of other people wherever they go.
If Saddam Hussein doesn't encapsulate all those things, what should the world do about Iraq? And there's talk in the last few hours of the Americans and the British going in there.
Well, I think, the issue of Saddam Hussein has many different approaches to it. One, Saddam Hussein as an individual certainly has his deficiencies that the world has seen, and that's unfortunate. But I don't think that the personal deficiencies or the character of Saddam Hussein should be confused or with indicting his entire country and therefore putting his country on the precipice of war and destruction, or for that matter, the ongoing perpetration of sanctions and things that have brought about a tremendous amount of suffering and disparagement upon the Iraqi people. So I think that the issue should be addressed differently, of course. I'm an American citizen, and as an American citizen, I still have the right to express dissent even with my government's position, and I do. But at the same token, we live in a very complex world, and sometimes we are unable to resolve things the way that we would ideally like to resolve them. And in the words of an individual who is very profoundly known throughout the world, Dr. Martin Luther King, he said, it's unfortunate that although we live in a very sophisticated world, we are unable to resolve issues in a very sophisticated way. And so I, like many people throughout the world, I shudder at the thought that a sophisticated society like America and others who would act in this manner seem to move without good thought and good resolve to be able to try to find a solution to this issue without the kind of destruction that is going to take place in that part of the world.
But Sheikh Khalid, you've confused me in a sense. You are an American citizen, therefore you're afforded that freedom to which you referred to object to what the American government does, that the people in Iraq under the regime of Saddam Hussein are not afforded the same luxury that you are as a free American citizen.
Yeah, of course, but at the same token, Ray, neither the Americans nor the Australians nor the British or the French or anyone, they're not the policemen of the world. And they're not the ones to go about throughout the world regulating or restoring what they consider to be the human rights of other people. I don't think that the approach to this issue is right. It's not just a matter of Saddam Hussein, and I think that to keep clouding the issue with the criminal characteristics or the history of Saddam Hussein, I think to cloud the issue with that is to belittle the millions of people who themselves are quite innocent and are subject to the tyranny of Saddam Hussein. And so who is America, Great Britain, France, or anybody else to go throughout the world to be the policemen of the world, to restore human dignity and human honor and so forth and so on through the destruction of another country?
But if they don't do it, Sheikh, who does it? Who frees the people of Iraq from this despotic regime?
Well, let's see if we can reverse that, Ray. Who frees the people of the so-called Western world? Who frees the people of the Western world from the corruption that we see blatant throughout the Western world? Now, I'm not pro-Iraq, and I'm not pro-Taliban. I'm not pro-anybody in particular, other than I'm a person who is a lover of peace and a God-loving person, and I think that there should be some justice even in the scriptures of Christians or in the scriptures of the Muslims, that there's a way for us to be able to approach situations without going into a country, destroying a country. For what reason? To bring down a despotic ruler. The historical evidence that we have for this kind of move doesn't bring about a new, what are we going to bring about? A new regime? Or is the Americans or the French or the Germans or somebody, are they going to appoint someone whom they think is better than Saddam Hussein? And has the Iraqi people themselves asked for this? They haven't. So I don't think that this is the way. It's not a matter that Saddam is right or wrong, of course. From a moral point of view, Saddam Hussein is wrong. Saddam Hussein is a tyrant. Saddam Hussein, has brought about, made many improper decisions. But at the same token, I don't think that America or France or Great Britain or any of these countries have the right to take it upon themselves to be the restorers of justice while they themselves are guilty of injustice in their own countries.
I've enjoyed talking to you. I hope you have an enjoyable time in Australia, and we'll talk about where you'll be able to be heard through the course of the next week or two.
Okay, thank you very much, Ray.
Thank you. I appreciate your time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Sheikh Khalid Yaseen.